All right, the today's topic is going to be a very, very important topic. Being I'm just starting with the learning of this language so that I can automate anything within the Excel. So let's assume being in the second week, I'm still not aware how to write the code. Of course, I don't know. I don't know what are the rules to be followed here. I don't know how the syntax is going to be, how the style of macro I'm going to write. What should be the macro name? I'm not really aware of anything here. So what is the first thing I'm going to do is the concept which you're going to learn today, it's called as recording. Okay, the concept which you are going to learn today is recording. This recording word looks so familiar to us because we've been using our phone, okay, other devices to record your voice, to record your video, to record anything for that matter, right? So it same goes with the Excel as well. When you're trying to record something in your Excel, it will record all those steps apart from your voice, of course, apart from your video, of course. Whatever the steps you are writing in your Excel, it will try to mimic everything. Everything. That means I don't know coding. I'm not aware of how to write the code, but my recording is going to help me to build the automation. I mean, any simple application can be automated by using an option called macro recording. We'll see in a couple of minutes how the recorder looks like, what exactly I'm talking about, how to record, and how to get your job done. As I said, most of us, okay, including me, we are not a programmers, but still we want to write a effective code, but we don't know. But within short time, how I can make things automated by using this particular tool called macro recorder. So the macro recorder can be used to record simple macros. Recording macros is very, very useful, even if you are experienced or non-experienced, although there are some limitations that you can need to be aware. Recording in the sense, I can record anything within the Excel environment. Let me give an example here. There is some data, okay, every day or every month or every quarterly, I'm getting some data from my business. I'm copying some data from one sheet to another sheet. Okay, though it looks very simple, but I want the macro to do this job. Okay, every day copy the data, put it in the second sheet, remove unwanted columns, remove unwanted data. Just you are trying to do the cleanup job. Every day you do the same job. So why to do manually anymore? Let's try to do with the help of my macros. Okay, this sounds good actually. It's a very simple task which I'm telling you. Though it looks good, but I don't know how to write the code. So what is the best way of doing this? Initially, when I don't know the coding, we can use a recording option within the Excel so that we can start utilizing the automation skills. All right. So let me just move on to my Excel environment now. Okay. This is my simple data, what we have a lot of sheets here. So we are going to do a lot of recordings. I just already have taken some data. Don't worry about what data is talking here, because that is not our task today. And second important thing which you need to remember, whenever I record, it will write some hundreds, thousands of lines behind the scenes. We know already where the code is going to be written. That is in the code window. The moment I record, you'll see some lines. Let's assume like 10 lines or 20 lines or 30 lines. You'll find. Don't be afraid. Don't be panic by looking at the code. Oh, it's written a lot of code. How to understand? Don't worry. That's my job. I'll take you through each and every step of the code. But for now, we are just going to enjoy this tool. How to record the simple job or complicated job. Okay, so what is very important for me whenever I'm recording something? Okay, what should be my preparation here? Okay, you should be very clear about your project first of all. Okay, my project here is very simple project, being first time I'm recording in my life, so I want to be very taking a very simple example so that I can move on to the complex project. All right. So the very first project, what I want to do is simply I want to copy the data every day I receive the data. As I said, don't worry, what is this data? Okay, who is representative? What is region? What is order date? Units, unit cost? Don't worry. We are not applying any mathematical operations on this. We are not doing any analysis here. Simply blindly copying and data and pasting into other sheet, which can make our life easy. Okay. Now, my first step, you need to be very clear before starting your macro recording, okay? And you need to record the steps what you wanted in real time. That means my job is I want to go to the first sheet, that is first step. The second step is click on the A1 cell. then go to the last because I want the header part also, and come down. So that means I've selected the portion. Then I need to use Control C or right click on this and say copy, whatever it may be. So that means you're copying the data. Now, what is your next objective? I want to go to the second sheet. I want to go to the A1 because you don't want to paste here and there. Just select the A1 and say paste. Okay, this is how I pasted my data from sheet 1 to sheet 2. Okay, though it looks very easy, of course, because we are just beginning in the VBA code, so we are learning from the scratch how to copy a data to a second sheet or third sheet or into a new workbook. Okay, so to reach to that level, pasting the data into multiple workbooks or getting data from multiple workbooks to one sheet, if you want to go reach to that level, first we need to start with the baby steps, that is just copying in data and pasting into a next sheet. So now guys, I'm very clear what is my project. Now I'm very clear what are the steps. I repeat the steps. First, I want to go visit to this sheet, that is record one sheet. I want to select this data. I want to select this down part and use a control key. Okay, nothing but you are just copying the data. It's up to you how you are copying the data. It could be like you can select this data like this, or you can select the data with your mouse, or you can use a keyboard, whatever it may be. After copying it, you want to go to the second sheet and you want to paste the data, and you want to do certain formattings. Why? Because every day you are receiving this data from the business and you want to do certain formatting before you send to your business. So this is my real paperwork which I've done before actually recording this. So that means you should be always prepared before what you want to record. So before recording, again, I repeat the question, you need to have all the steps in place before you do this. You can record anything, as I said, within the Excel environment, but you need to be aware what steps I need to take. That is going to the first sheet, copying the data, going to the second sheet, pasting the data, and you stop the recording. Okay, let me tell you how the recording works really in Excel. Okay, before that, let's go to our mobile. Whenever you try to just click on the record and you try to sing a song, or you talk something, you deliver some speech, and after some time, after 5 minutes, let's assume you stop the recorder. What happens here exactly? After some time, or after 1 month, after 2 years, after 10 years, if you try to listen to that voice, you'll not find any difference. You'll find the same voice, you will find the same text what you deliver, you will find the same song what you already had 10 years back. So that means recording will just try to mimic what you have said. It can never be in different fashion. All right. So even in Excel, what happens is it will try to record whatever you're telling through the help of your mouse or with your help of your keyboard. So basically what I'm trying to say here, don't click here and there. Try to be very clear with your purpose, what exactly you want to record. That is, I want to record only this particular information. So that means don't click here and there, because every action is recorded your VBA. Every action will be recorded by your VBA recorder. All right. So having said that, let's get started with the very first recording to understand how the recorder works. And in the previous week, we have seen how to invoke the developer tab. Those are not, just rewind my video. Go to the developer tab. If you want to see again, go to the file menu, go to the options. Under that, we have something called customize ribbon. So customize ribbon is a place where I can just add menus or remove menus. I can do whatever I want here. But additionally, there is something called developer tab here. When you uncheck, that means you don't want. If you check, that means you want. Once you say check that, once you say okay, that means your developer tab is on. All right, so there are a lot of menus or blocks which I can see here. The first block is talking about code. Second block is talking about controls. Third block is talking about XML. All right, so let's see all. But the very first important thing, the moment you look at, you can make it very easily record macro. All right, let me see. Is there any shortcut here? When I place my mouse pointer there, there's no shortcut as such. But we'll see what is the shortcut available in the next example. Record macro, I don't know what exactly it does, but it is trying to give some information here. Just go through that. Each of the commands you perform will be saved into the macro so that you can play them back again. That means whenever I record something, the code is already written by the Excel, and the code can be reusable again and again. That means you are not going to do any job manually. Every time when you run that code, it will perform the same action without any difference. Okay, so that's right. Whenever you're recording, you should plan what to be recorded. So let me record my very first recording so that we'll be comfortable. We'll try to record multiple things here. I'm almost going to see like 5 to 10 examples so that I can be master of recording today itself. Okay. One question before you go ahead. Though we have a beautiful a tool called recording here, it doesn't mean that you can do all the projects with this recording. However, it's going to be help you learning a lot of things. Actually, there's no need to ask Google, there's no need to ask me, there's no need to ask anybody what is this, what is that, because your recording is going to help a lot. What is the primary advantage of this recording also we'll see in a couple of minutes. That's the biggest secret which are hidden in the recording tool, which I'm going to explain. So now the very first one, I'm going to click on the recording option here. There is a beautiful dialog box appears in front of you saying that there are only three options. It is asking very politely. The first one, it says, can you please give me the macro name? All right, I haven't decided what should my macro name, because I can change it anytime. So let me say my first macro. All right, that's my macro name. Very interesting, because it's first macro are given like that, but ensure that it make really sense what macro name you are giving. So the first parameter, I repeat, it's a macro name which you are going to give. The second one is shortcut key. That means once the macro is being designed, how you want to run, because you want to run, right? Because once the macro is created, our main job is to run the macro so that you can perform the job. So can I use a control C here? No. Can I use control S? Can I use control F? No. The reason is there are a lot of shortcuts in Excel which are already been reserved, which are already taken by Microsoft Excel. So try to use such shortcut which you never used in your life and which is not a keyword for the VBA. So let me use simply control. Try to use any shortcut key which you have never used. I'm not getting
Control
this.
Q.
All right, guys. So here I've given Control Shift S. What does it mean actually? This shortcut is being not by used by Excel or anybody else. So I'm trying to use for the first time. All right. So the second one talks about the shortcut key, but actually in live environment, we'll never use shortcuts to run your macros, because you might have seen in your organization, beautiful buttons will be placed on the very first page to run your macros. Okay. There are almost six ways of running the macro, which I'm going to share at the end of this session. But today my agenda is to how to create the macros for by myself. Running is quite easy, because running is mainly for the end user, right? Being a developer, you should concentrate more on recording, but at the same time you'll also see how to run the macros. There are six ways. I'll show you practically how the six ways are going to be useful. The next one is talking about where you want to store this macro. Okay, I'm going to build a macro for you. Can you please tell me where you want to store? That is what the question here is. There are three options available. One is a personal macro workbook, one is new workbook, one is this workbook. So for now, let us keep this default option as this workbook only, because I'm not interested to change it, because I don't know what are the two options at this moment. Being the first macro, I don't want to get into that. And here it is asking what is your description. Description is nothing but this is an additional information provided to understand about the macro. What does it mean actually? A description is always like talking about more information about this macro. Why I designed this macro, what is the use of this macro, and who asked me to develop this. You can give whatever the information, additional information, you can just give it, which is really, really optional, but it's mandatory as I feel, because by writing an additional description, any person can easily understand what you're trying to do on the macro. Now, guys, the recording macro is started. When I click on this, I'm going to see an error, and very quickly, I'm going to solve that error as well. I said, okay. Immediately, I got an error here, because as we have seen in the very first week session, macro name is having certain rules to be followed when you try to give a macro name. So what is my mistake here is I created my first macro, but it is not a single word. It is spaces. We have a spaces, right? So if you want to remove the spaces, what you can do is either you make it as a single word, If you are interested to make it as a separate weights, always try to use underscores. Okay. Now let me see one more example. As we already seen what are the rules to be followed, I'm saying first macro. Here I want to use 1, 2, 3. What does it mean? You want to start your macro with a number, starting with number, which is again a wrong, because we cannot start the macro name with a letters. You cannot use a special characters either. I can let me use a special character like ash, at the rate. These are all special characters, right? Okay, so my solution to this problem is always try to use a simple macro name which anybody can understand. Okay, I use a simple macro or else club it. That's it, no more problem here. And always you can go up to 255 characters of the length of the macro name. Please don't get into such big name, because we want to understand a simple macro name which we can easily remember for this project. Once I say okay, you can see this record macro which will change its appearance. That means once I say okay, you'll see now the start recording has changed to stop recording. Don't be afraid here. Your voice is not getting recorded. Your video is not getting recorded. You are just trying to record the steps which I am going to take now. Every action will be recorded, every action. So I need to be very conscious when I'm trying to record this macro. So that means I'm selecting on the sheet one. Why I'm selecting? Because I want to be in the sheet one when I record this. Then I want to put my cursor in the A1 cell. Then I'm going right. I'm coming down. All right, let me select this A1 to F1. Then from there to this, I want to select. I want to copy this data. I want to I want to go to the paste one. I want to paste the data here. After pasting data, somebody asked me, can you make it a little bigger because it's not really looking good? Okay, let me increase the size of it, maybe something like this. And somebody asked, put the header because it's completely looking very boring. So let me go for some yellow color and the font should be red color. Somebody suggested me, all right. And somebody said, can you also put the borders because it's not having any borders because you're sending to a business. Let's make it very clean. Okay, this is how I just done my job, and also want the header to be very big size so that you can really differentiate this is a uh, your header part. All right, so this is a simple recording I've done, but whatever I'm talking, it is not recording, it is just taking my actions. That is whatever the job I've done. After pasting here again, I came back to my Excel sheet. I kept my cursor somewhere else in the top. Then I go to my developer. I can see still my recording is on, and I can stop anytime. You can stop from there, or at the bottom you can see a macro is currently running. You can click on the stop. You can click on the stop to stop the macro. So let me stop the macro here. Guys, we are really successful in creating the very first macro now. That is, I record it. I'm not written code because I don't know how to write the code. I'm yet to learn. I'm yet to learn the ways to write the code. I'm yet to learn the syntax to be followed. All right. So this job is already done by my Excel. So let me, my recorder. So let me remove everything. Now I want to run the same thing with the help of, okay, with the help of the shortcut which I've created. So in the beginning, we have learned two shortcuts, right? Alt, we have learned two shortcuts, that is Alt plus F11. All right. Then next we have learned Alt plus F8. There's a two shortcut keys which you have learned. The very first one says how to go to your code window. Second one says how to view your macros. Okay. Having created the first macro, I want to see how the macro look like. So let me go for that. You can see the first one says Visual Basic, nothing but you want to go to the code window. The second one is view macros, nothing but Alt F8. When I click on this Alt F8, another dialog box comes into your finger, which says you have created this macro. That's what it's showing. If tomorrow, if you have 100 macros, it is going to show you the 100 list of macros. Okay. This dialog box I'm not going to use much. The reason is this is not the way to run, but this is one of the way to run. So let me run the macro. I repeat again, to run the very first model of running is just go to the macros and click on run. The moment I click on run, you'll see instantly the output which I've recorded will be here, right? So let me run the macro now to see really the amazing results which I recorded. I'm clicking on run by default. Just click on it. Your recording is done and it came back to the original position. If I go to my second part, part one, my data is already created. So let me go back again. Let me run again to see it's really working. Run it. Yes, it's doing its job. So you can see here. Let me see. Initially, I've created a shortcut. Will it work to run this? Yes. Control Shift S. The moment if I say Control Shift S, in the paste one, we don't have anything, but you'll see the amazing results once I use Control Shift S, because that is the shortcut key which you use, and you can see the data is already created here. All right, the data is already created here, and remember guys, it has pasted in the second sheet, but we have not pasted in the third sheet, that is page 2. So that means your macro will never always do the job of pasting the data in this sheet only, but not in the sheet, this sheet or this sheet. The reason is you have not designed the macro in such a way. So that means your macro is a static type of a macro, not dynamic. Not dynamic in the sense, uh, the way you recorded, you said only copy data and go to the first sheet and paste it. Tomorrow if you want to make this macro dynamic, you need to write your own code. So that's what you are just recording and enjoying it. But however, if you think if you want to make it dynamic, yes, we need to learn this. We learn VBA language from the basics, that is how to write your own code. Having said that, let's see how the code is written behind the scenes. Please don't try to understand the code, what it is going to show you now in a couple of seconds. You'll be really amazed to see the results the way I recorded. Though it's a simple recording, but you'll see some hundreds of lines or maybe 50 lines. Okay, it's not showing anything. It's by default blank. I know how to go to the window, Project Explorer. These are the number of sheets what I have here. When I click on this module, the very first module, honestly, I have not created this module, because what happens is whenever you are trying to record something, it will create its own module and it will show the entire coding in your screen. All right, I can see a very big code here. Within no time, I could able to write so much of big code. Okay, forget about this line because it's not important at this moment. You can see something saying first macro. Okay, this is the macro name what I've given, and this is additional information. Okay, showing in green color. We try to understand what is green color, what is blue color, what is black color. We'll try to understand all these things. But having said that, don't try to get into what is this line, what is this line says. Don't get into this. This is your simply macro which is doing its job. If you want to run from here, let's see, this is the third way. I'll try to describe all these ways of running slowly, but I'll try to show from the code window how to run this. If I just click on this run button, which is existing in the toolbar, when I run this, your macro will run. It will go to the paste one sheet and you can see the results are amazing. It's printing the same job here all the time. All right. So it has put all the recordings in the module one. If I record second time, what happens is it will try to paste the same results. If I try to record from copying the data from first sheet and pasting in the second sheet and also pasting in the third sheet and the fourth sheet or whatever the sheets might be, now the next time the recording will be different. So let me see how the macro is going to be different if I'm going to write. There's an option here at the bottom. You can also click there. If you're not comfortable, go for the developer tab, click on the record. I'm going to say second macro this time. Don't be worried if you're not understanding. I want you to understand how to record. That's it. Don't worry about the coding part. That's my job. So second macro, I clicked on it. I copied this data again. This time I want to do things differently. Paste here and paste here. Okay. After pasting the data, I want to come back to the main sheet. I want to place my cursor somewhere else here. Okay. Now, once this is done, I want to stop the macro. How easy it is. Just start the macro, do your actions and stop the recording once your job is done. So my second macro is done already. So let me remove the results here because I don't want to be doing this anymore manually. I want my macro to do it. So for that, where should I go to run my macro? I need to go for view macros, click on the second macro name. Amazing. Just 5 minutes back I've written one macro and now I've written the second macro. Macro name can be anything guys. Okay, it could be your name, my name, or my process name, my company name. It could be anything. For fun sake I've taken first and second so that you can differentiate it. That's it. When I run the second one, as you have seen already, the paste one, paste two sheets are empty right now. When I run this macro, what happens is I can also use Alt F8, right? That is what we have learned. We can click on this directly. or you can use Alt F8. That is the shortcut it's saying. So let me use Alt F8. Works? Yes, working. Now click on the second macro and run it. When you click on the second macro, what happens is second macro knows only one thing, that is pasting in the sheet, pasting in the second sheet also. But if you look at the first macro, it knows only one thing, that is pasting in the second sheet and also doing certain formatting. Let me run the first macro now. You can see the first macro is run and it is also formatted. So the two macros have two different functionalities here. Let me click on Alt F11 and see where my second macro is created. Okay, I'm very much interested to see where is my macro is created. Let me remove all this for now. It's not required. Okay, this is my first macro. Go down, go down, go down, and you can see my second macro here. Okay, don't try to understand the code. These amazing 100 lines, 500 lines you are going to write on your own without your knowledge. That's what the objective of this session. But however, it has recorded its job. Okay, now let me get back to this. I explained what I've done. I clicked on record. I've given the name. When I click on this, I've given the name. I've given the shortcut also. I specified it should be in this workbook. I've given the description. I said okay. After recording my all my actions, I went to this and I said stopped. All right. So what happens is basically whenever you recorded something, you kept in mind there is a sheet name called record one. You copied some data from here. Let me start recording for that matter. I clicked on recording from here. Here doesn't matter. Let me hide this, go to developer and say recording. This is my fifth recording. Okay, once I say okay, I want to select this data, Control Shift Star, so that I can select the entire portion. Say Control C, I copied the data. I pasted the data here. Okay, I pasted the data here. Then I stop the macro. I did the same thing. I'm nothing new. If I go to, okay, I start the macro, right? Now, the fifth macro also doing the same job, right? Now, when I say Alt F8, I got the fifth macro here. That is, okay, here. When I say run, I data got pasted in this sheet, but somebody has deleted this sheet. What happens, guys? Can we just imagine? When I just deleted the sheet, when I try to run this sheet again, okay, when I try to run this, I'll end up getting some error. What is that error? The very first error which you're going to learn today. I don't want to teach you what are the different type of errors available. I don't want to give you a material on this. I don't want to take a big printouts to remember what are the different errors, because it's quite easy to remember. I'll tell you the very first trick. Here, as I'm running the first macro, fifth macro, where it was going to copy this data and putting into the paste one sheet, which is not available now. When I run this, I'll get into an error saying that subscript out of the range. The error code here is 9. Do I need to make a note of it? Don't worry, because whenever you find this string called subscript out of the range, that means it's clearly telling you that sheet is not existing. But how do I believe that sheet is not existing? I can see, no, I can't see that sheet here. But I want to understand the code part also, where it is stopped. There are two options here. When you say end, that means stop it. I'll check myself. When you say debug, I'm asking VBA, can you please show me where is the error? Okay, let me click on, there are two options here. When you say end, that means you know where is the error. Okay, that is an assumption. The second one is debug. When I click on a debug, what happens is you're trying to find where is the error through the editor. When once I click on debug, it will take me to the exactly to the code and it will highlight the error. It is telling me paste one dot select sheet is not existing. Of course, if I go back, there is no paste one dot sheet existing here. That's why it's giving an error. Okay, let me create that sheet again, just like that for fun to see, will I see the same error again? I said insert sheet. Okay, I just created an insert sheet here and I created one more sheet. Now sheet name I'm giving as paste one. Will it understand I just deleted and recreating the sheet, so that I understand there is a recording which is working on the sheet. Now it is not available, so I recreated. Now I'm running this back again. That is the fifth macro. When I'm running this, now it's working. Why working? Because it's understand the destination part is existing. Now it's not giving an error. I repeat, if I delete the destination sheet, if it is not existing, it will not automatically go and paste the sheet still. The reason is the sheet itself is not existing. When I run it, I'll end up in errors. It will directly show you the error, where exactly the error. Where exactly the error? If you want to come out for now, because I'm still not writing the code, don't want to get into that. You can reset. I mean, you are in the debug mode now. You need to reset it. Once you reset, you are nothing but you are coming to normal. And my code is not really working here. My code is not really working. All right, let's get into the second way of recording here. My boss asked me, can you just remove unwanted columns and properly format this so that it can be sent to the business? Maybe he said like items I don't want to show, just delete this column and put this column data exactly into the middle, format it neatly, put the header, put the color, change the background color, everything. He asked me to do certain things. So what I did is I instantly made all the notes. What is notes for me? Notes is very simple. The steps in the sense, remove the D column. That is one step. Okay. Selecting the whole data. That is the second step. Select only the first row. That is nothing but the column header. Select it, change the color, change the font color, make it big size, lowercase, italic, bold, whatever you want to do. Then properly format it. That is what the instruction given to me. So let me start recording this to do my job easy. Okay, I'm just hiding the panel here, going to recording option, developer. I said recording. Okay, this is 8 recording. I said okay. So as per my boss, he said remove the D column. So I am very intelligent. I made all the notes. First step I recorded as D column to be deleted. So I deleted it because it's not required as per my business, not to be shown to my business. It is very confidential information which is not to be hidden from the business. After that, I selected the first portion. I went to home. I went into something called, I made it at a red color. I made the font color as white color. Then I selected this entire portion from here to here. Then I made it as borders. Then what I did is I went to some insert a blank rows because my boss wanted this to be shown exactly in the middle. I don't know why. So I just inserted some few blank columns. I inserted this as well. I inserted this. That's it. After that, I just selected this portion. He wanted me to show bigger size. So let me say 20 size, very big. Then after that, I want to make these columns very shown exactly the auto fit I want to make. Then I want to select this. I want to make this style as something like maybe clockwise probably. This style I want to offer. I want to go for the view. I want to remove the grid line so that it can look like just like a report for me. Then I'm happy with this recording. Then I'm stopping it. Okay, and then I'm stopping it. Now remember guys, whatever the recording you have done, can I do Control Z? Control Z in the sense, can I do undo here? Let's see. I stopped the recording now. I want to say Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and Control Z. I'm getting my data back. Okay, while recording, you are just recorded, you have not run the macro. When you're running the macro, the changes, whatever you implied on the data can never be revoked. But now I just recorded, so I am able to use a Control Z to get back my old data. Now let me go to, did I stop the macro? Go to this and stop the macro to ensure that you stopped. Otherwise, whatever the clicks you are doing here and there, you're closing, maximizing, minimizing, everything is recorded. So you need to be very clear where you started, where you ended, are all the steps covered or not. All right. If something goes wrong, not to worry, just delete that macro and restart your recording. Now I'll go to the developer. I know only 2 ways of running, that is using the shortcut as of now. I have not created any shortcut for this. So let me go to view macros. In the view macros, as you've seen initially, there are only 1 macro, 2 macro. Now it grown to 8 macros, guys. So I want to go to the 8th macro, which is showing at the top. Okay. Now I'm clicking on this and running it. Within no time, every day I'm getting this stop. I'm wasting a lot of time in formatting this. And every day I need to maintain the uniqueness. That is every time red color. It can't be a green color. The font size should be 20. Tomorrow when I'm creating manually, I may end up doing it 19 size. No, I want this report to be uniquely identified every day whenever I'm sending to my business. No problem, because I've recorded everything now. When I'm running this, within no time, you'll see it is formatted the data. Now at this position, can I use the Control Z here? Your Control Z will not work. The reason is you have ran macro on this particular data. So once you run the macro on your data, the results cannot be revoked Of course, still there is a chance if you close this work without changes, you can get the back data. But once you save this file, let me save this file, and you reopen the file, you'll always see the report like this only because you already ran the macro on this. Let me go to the second sheet now. Let me go to the second sheet. I want to try the same macro, whether it works on this page or not. Control F8, okay, Alt F8, sorry. Just use the eighth macro run it. Okay, it has deleted the D column. It has recreated the format for me. Let me go to the third recording where have data is more. That's a difference. Here we have only less data. Here we have a more data. Let me see if this recording, what I've done, really works on the large amount of data or not. Because that is really important, right? Because every time you're not going to find the same data set all the time. You are going to find some increase and decrease of your rows. So let's see if it works. Control F8, Alt F8, and say eighth macro. I want to ensure that this macro is running, but let's see what happens. No, it's not working. What is the reason? Because that's how you recorded. You selected a portion of data to run it. So that's why it's not running. If you want to make this dynamic, let's see how to do that. That is, let's try to do the same example on the fourth recording. I hope you understood what I mean. All right. So let me try to implement the same kind of macro by selecting more amount of data. That means my macro should be dynamic. Dynamic in the sense, today I have 5 rows, tomorrow 50,000 rows. Still my macro should work on it. How? You always try to select, before that you need to click on record macro. Otherwise you can select at the bottom, there is a tiny box which says you can also record from here. Either ways is good. Click on the record option, give as 10th macro, and say OK here. Once you say OK, you selected the portion here and you went to right and you went down. That means you are selecting the whole portion. After selecting the whole portion, you select this borders, you select the red color, maybe whatever, and you want to give some blank rows here, blank columns, blank rows, because that is what my business requirement to be done. All right. So somebody asked me, can you increase the font size also? Okay, what's wrong? We can do that. But once you increase the font size, it's not auto fit. So let me auto fit. The way you're recording, it is doing, it's not doing any mistake. It is how you're recording. So it's doing its job. So I'm trying to style the text as well. So I went to view, I went to grid lines also a remote so that can really look like a report. Now, once I go to the developer tab and stop macro, what happens is this time you selected the data like this. You went right till whatever the data is there you are selecting. You went down, that means whatever the data is there you selected. But earlier I selected like this. I selected from top, I selected the bottom directly. That's why it is trying to understand from A1 to whatever the cell you have, that is H. What is the last cell here? H. We have H22 is the last cell. Here C4 is the first cell. So that means you are selecting a particular range here, that from here to here. But now I selected the data like this. I don't know from where it is starting. I started from here. I don't know where it is going to end, but I used my right arrow key. I don't know where the data is getting ended, so I'm using that down arrow key. So that's how I started. So let me see if it really works on my next recording, because here I failed, literally failed, because my selection was not proper. Let me go to the next sheet and run it if it works, because a huge amount of data is there now. It's not 5 records or 4 records. I have 44 records, and my boss told me not to send this D column, which is very confidential. That column should be either hidden or deleted. So I deleted instead of hiding it. So let me run my 10th macro. It should work on this. If it's not working, that means I failed to record properly. So let me go to the 10th recording now. Where is that? I can see 10th recording here. Just click on that and run it. The entire data set should be changed now without fail. Let me go down and see. Yes, everything is perfect now. All right, let's move on to the next segment of recording only, because today session is all about recording, nothing else. We are not writing, we are not understanding the code. We are just trying to automate few things which are static in nature or dynamic in nature maybe, but within the Excel environment. And we are like trying to accomplish some basic level of automations with the help of recording. All right. So here, what is my agenda is most of the time we try to create a pivot table. I'm sure like everybody knows what is pivot table. Pivot table is summarizing your data because this is a raw data, right? Raw data showing for how many pencils, I don't know because I need to filter and see for how many pencils or pin units we have, how many, what is the unit cost and which region and what is the date. I cannot, I'm not able to understand with this data if I summarize so that I can see in the form of pivot table or filtering, whatever it may be. So let's try to see, is it really possible to create a pivot table with the help of a recording? Because I don't know coding, I don't know how to create a pivot table with the help of VBA. Of course, I know how to create a pivot table with the Excel. That means I can automate anything. The only question you need to keep asking yourself, is it possible to record this? Is it possible to record this? Is it possible to record this? The question answer should be yes. When I'm able to do manually, yes, it can be recorded. That means I know how to create a manually pivot table. That means I know that means that can be automated with the help of a recorder, right? So let me quickly go to the developer tab and click on record option. I'll say pivot recording. The name can be anything, guys. I can put one more example as my name, and shortcut also you can use is by this workbook, but this is not the way of running. I'll show you the other beautiful ways of running. Now once I'm clicking on this OK, what happens is I want to select the whole data, Control Shift Star, then I'm using Alt NV, that is creating a pivot table. You can go from here also. I'm using a shortcut, that's it. In the existing sheet, let's assume I want to create a pivot table. If I want to create a pivot table, I clicked on here, then I said okay. Then what I want to do is I want to keep the order date in the rows, maybe just like that. I want to create the region also here. Okay, a region, let me put in the columns. Then I want to put the representative to name at the region level. Then I want to put the item to be here. Then I want the unit cost to should be in the values, and I want unit to be here, just like that. For the fun, I created some pivot table here, and you can see the pivot table is created with all the quarters and the years. Okay, you can see all this is created. That's how my pivot table is created, which is very big. Then I'm stopping the macro. So that means I could able to create the pivot table manually. That means I'm able to record also. So if I run at this moment, what we can expect from guys? Already the pivot table is there and you are trying to recreate the pivot table. So please ensure you are deleting this before you run your actual macro. Always try to delete whatever the results you got through the help of recorder. You delete it, create the space for macro to do the job. So that means Alt F8, when I go, when I click on the pivot table recording example, when I run it, it should be creating the pivot table within no time. That's it, it's over. That means I could able to create the pivot table. But what happens if I run at this moment? Already pivot table is there. Will it allow me to recreate again? No way. What happens is when I click on this, it's not understanding what you're trying to do. It's not understanding what you're trying to do because there is already a pivot table existing. So never try to do this job. So for that, what you can do is instead of deleting manually, let me record that also. Go to the recorder, clear pivot. That means I'm trying to clear my pivot table. So how I'm going to delete, I don't know. I don't know how to code. I'll simply go here. I'll go this entire data. I'll just go and say delete. So that means I'm deleted my pivot table. I stop the macro. Now what happens is Alt F8, I'm clicking on the 10th pivot recording example. I ran it. Okay, my pivot table is created. I can use the second macro which you created, that is clear pivot. When I click on this, my pivot table should be cleaned. It's not recorded here, I think. Yeah. So let me delete manually here for now. Okay. So whenever you're running for the second time, always ensure that the whatever the pivot you already created, it should be cleaned off. Otherwise, your macro will not work on the macro results which have already been created. All right. So in this kind of a pivot table, what are the changes you want? That's what I'm asking. Like you need to have your steps beforehand when you are creating this recording option. So that means when I go to a developer tab and I record pivot to, let's say, I can add numbers at the end, not at the beginning, no problem. I said, okay. Once I said that, Control Shift Star to select the entire data. Alt and V, nothing but going to a pivot table. Then I'm selecting the existing sheet so that you can see the result here itself. I said, okay, okay. So that means I taken the region here in the rows. I've taken the unit cost here. Okay. Whatever it may be, that's just example. Order date you want to take in the columns maybe. After taking this, you thought like, let me do some formattings. How you're going to do the formatting? You want to do certain formattings like let me do certain other formatting also. I went to number. I removed this two. Okay, let it be the two. Then I want to use comma separator here probably. I want to use a currency as well. Let's see dollar symbol maybe. Okay, after using this formatting, then I went to designing. Somebody asked me, can you make it some colorful thing? So let me select this option. It's selected. So I thought that's it. So this is after doing this, I went to developer and stopped it. So whatever you want, it should be planned beforehand so that everything can be implemented at the recording stage itself. So when I go to this and go for the pivot two, you'll get exactly what you wanted actually. I got the same result. Let me run it again to see whether it's working or not. I'll go to Alt F8, select that uh, pivot 2. Yeah. When I run it, within no time, you'll see the pivot is created in front of you that decide colors. It will never, you can't expect this pivot to be shown in a red color, green color. No, because already you're decided it should be in blue color. But later on, once the results are out, you can change anytime. That's not at all a problem. You are a favorite of this color, so you can change it. But whenever you run the macro, it will always show the green color only because that's how you are recorded. Let me prove that fact. I removed it, Alt F8, pivot 2, then run it. You'll see the results are always in a blue, but later on you need to change to some other color. So why don't you plan your color beforehand so that you can really get the output desired one. All right. So in this example, my boss always said like whenever you're sending this particular data, please ensure that the east region data should not exist in the data. Please remove that east data uh, and try to create the report for me. I know that if I want to delete the data, I cannot go wherever east is there, select that, select that, select that, select that, and delete the rows. No, that's not the way, right? We always try to auto filter it and remove the unimportant information. So for that, let me start recording this so that you can understand what I'm saying. Hide. Then I'm clicking on the tiny button at the bottom, or you can go for this developer and click on this dude that is record macro. So here what I'm doing is auto filter example. And once I say okay, my recording is started. And one more important fact which I want to tell, most of the time people ask so innocently, and even I got that doubt initially. I said start recording and haven't taken any initiative here. I have not started my steps. Okay, what happens when you're trying to record something on your mobile? Okay, you switched on the recorder, you have not spoken at least for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you started speaking, and at the 10th minute, you stop the recording. So what happens when you're trying to replay that recording? First 5 minutes you'll find blank. After that you'll start listening to your voice, right? That is what happens in the reality. But in VBA, it's so beautiful. Even after 1 hour, if you start taking the initiative of recording, it will the time starts from there only, not the blank. That means I'm speaking a lot here. I already started the recording. You can see at the it's asking me to stop. I'm not stopping because I'm not done my job. I'm speaking a lot. I'm not really doing any productive work here. I'm not doing any steps. Okay, I'm not manipulating my data. But whatever the blank space is there till now, okay, that will not be considered. Whenever you have started action, only that actions will be recorded. That's one important thing we need to note. Now I'm going to the first column. I'm saying auto filter. You guys know how to auto filter. Now go to select what you're going to select that you don't want east to be there. Okay, I'm just unselected everything. I just selected east. The way I know to do manual, I'm doing the same thing. I'm not using my technical skills here. Simply selecting east. After that, I'm selecting this rows. I'm deleting it. I'm putting this data back. Okay, I'm putting this data back. So that means if you If you see this data, now there is no such column called value called East region, because my boss wanted to send this data only to Central and West regions, not to the East regions. So that means I've deleted the data, and he wanted me to format this data so that it can look good. Okay, I am good at that formatting. Let me do the formatting here. I just did this table structure. I made to red color or this color. Then I wanted to make it italic and make it bold. I made that also. Then the entire data he wanted me to put in italic style, something he's interested. So let me do it. I want this to be at the right. Now I wanted this to be column should be something like this. Then I want this to be inserted like this. I want some header to be inserted blank. Then I'm going to my recording. Let me go to recording developer, stop the recording. Now let me say Control Z so that I can get back my data back, so that uh, before I run, how the data should look like, it should be like the same. Okay. Now my data is same the way it was when my boss given, but it is not formatted. He wanted me to format every day on daily basis, but I don't want to do it. I'm lazy. I can't do manual job. I want to do it very quickly with the help of recorder. Now let me see my recorder works on this or not. Alt F8. Now you can see there is a East region still existing. That is not good because it is not recommended for the business. Auto filter example, when I say run, it is went, it's filtered, it's over. When I go to region, no more East region here. Okay. So here what I want to do is, whenever I get a report here, my boss says, can you please multiply units into unit cost and give me the result here. Okay. What would be the units into unit cost? That's your sales amount. Let's say I want to record it. So I'll go to, all right. So what I'm going to do here is, I want to create some additional column so that I can have, I started recording the macro. I've said additional column example. Okay. What happens in this case? I said, okay, I said sales here. I selected a cell called G2 and I said sales amount. And here I said equals to the way I know to do manually. That is what I'm doing here. 92 into 1.99. I said okay. After that, what you usually do, you'll try to just double click on it, or you'll try to drag it till the data is there. And okay, my data is still there. Okay, let me drag it and click on here and stop the recording. Before stop recording, I want to color it because I want to say this is what additionally I've created. I want to tell my boss this is additional columns what I've created. This is I colored. Then I'm stopping the macro. I'll stop the macro here. So I'll remove this now. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and delete it. Now let's see if I am able to do the same job when I run this. Run this. Okay, excellent. You are able to create automatically with your without doing any manual efforts. The formula is also intact. Now my question is, will it work if I have more data? Okay, will it work if I have more data? Alt F8. Now go to additional column example, run it. I failed. I literally failed here, right? Let me see if I have less data, will it work? I have only 4 rows now, okay? I recorded this keeping in mind 5 rows, but now I have 4 rows because that's how the data is changed. But now will it work? Additional column example, run it. Oh, it's not working because when I recorded keeping in mind 10 rows. So I have recorded for 10 rows. So it's always working for 10 rows, but not for the remaining rows. So let me see how I can make dynamic so that you can really see the effect of it. So I'll copy this data. I'll keep it some rows so that we can really do it. I'm creating one more example here. Same dynamic column add as an example. I said, okay, this time I'm going to put the sales column again, no problem. Here I'm going to use the same style of 95 into 1.99, which is coming as this. I said, okay. Once I say, okay, this time what I want to do is smartly, I'll copy this. You guys might be knowing this. You'll go left, you'll go down, you'll go right side, you'll go up and paste it. and close the macro. All right. So I just remove this column because I want the macro to do this job for me now. Alt F8. I said additional, what is that? Yeah, dynamic column add. When I say run, perfectly working. So let me see if it works for more number of rows now. That is what our macro should be, dynamic style. Otherwise, it's waste of recording, right? So we need to have a dynamic nature. So let me hide this and Alt F8. I want to run this dynamic one. Let's see if it works because the rows are increased now. When I run this, it's working. No, I failed again because it's able to record it. You went to left side, that means you selected F2. We went to down, that means you selected this portion earlier, that is F7. When we went to right side, that means you selected the G7. When you selected this one, that means you went from G7 to G6. So that's how my macro is completely failed here. That means it's not dynamic in nature. Let's see how to make it dynamic in next couple of minutes. All right, Alt F8. Alt F8. I want to make these two windows into two parts so that I can see how it is recording. I never thought when I'm recording, it can really show the recording part also, but I off late understood, yes, it can also show you the recording part. That means we are sitting right now here. Let me go down some more. I want to see, quite interesting actually, this example is quite interesting. While I'm doing every action, will it record or not? That's what I want to know. I went to recording option here. Okay, I selected dynamic make one. Okay, that's a dynamic one, just example. I said okay. The moment I say okay, you can see there is a code built already. Okay, dynamic one. Now what I'm doing in my Excel, I selected some portion D9. I selected A1. I went to this cell. I went to this cell, I copied. Now you can see A1 to F7 you have selected. Okay, A1 to F1 you have selected. You copied it, you pasted at the bottom, let's assume. Okay, you paste it and you remove the column, for example. Whatever I'm doing the actions, you are able to see the entire code here, and you can edit anytime by just looking at this code. Very beautiful. Just look at this. Whatever the things I'm doing, I just selected the first line. I went to right side. It is telling you went right side. I made go to the home and made something of formatical changes. Let's assume I want to go for a home. I want to go for some colors. I went to blue color maybe, I went to white color maybe, then you can see the entire code is getting recorded. I'm stopping it. Now my code is ready. This code is built by a macro, not by me, but I'm able to see practically how the code is getting recorded. Now this code will only work for that range, because if you see this line, okay, if you see this line, don't try to understand, just try to have a look. If you try to take a look at this particular line, it is saying, I will work only for A1 to F7 always. That's how you recorded. It's not your problem. That's how you are recorded. It's not macro problem. It's our problem. That's how you recorded. Even macro is understanding I should work only on A1 to F7. So that's why it is not dynamic. So let's see how to make dynamic now. If I want to do dynamic, let me go to a next sheet. Let me make a few data so that we can see really what's happening. I'll make it as long. Then I go to new recording here, developer, record, dynamic 3, and say okay. In the dynamic 3, okay, I got the recording here. You can see here, it's showing dynamic 3. Here in this, I want to delete D column, which is not required maybe. That is what my manager said. Here, I'm not selecting data by cells. If I select cells, what happens, try to see in the code window, guys. Here, it's very important to understand this part, which will explain you how to work dynamically. If I select from here to here, that means I'm selecting A1 to A9. Okay. If I'm selecting like this, see, this is dynamic. Go right, go down. This is dynamic. But in the previous case, I selected like this range to this range. That means you are fixing the selection part. By doing the selection part fixing, that is called as absolute reference. Absolute in the sense, you have decided yourself always select only this portion, or always select this portion from A1 to E9, you have selected. But if you selected like this, it's showing A1 to E9. If you select it like this, if you're going right and down, it is selecting dynamic and not showing anywhere as A1 or B1 or D1. Why? Because you selected dynamic one. Again, I repeat, if I go from here to here like this, that means you are selecting a range. Just look at the code window at the right side. If I'm selecting like this, that means you are selecting A1 to A9, that is fixed. You are making your macro as static macro by yourself. That is called as absolute recording, which is slightly disturbing, because when you have a static data, always 9 rows, 10 rows, you can use this kind of a style, but it's not advisable in this style, because we should not use this one, rather use control shift star, which is nothing but, if you see the coding part now, it is telling current region. Okay, it is telling you you have selected current region. You selected current region always stands for, see, wherever I'm clicking, it is trying to record, guys. I clicked here, I selected a range, it's selecting the range. I recorded this, whatever you are saying, it is trying to record. So you need to be very careful while you are recording. That's how it's working now. So when in the previous example, what I've done is I've given as a sales. Okay, then I said equals to, then I said 95 into 199. I'll tell you what was the problem with the previous example and why we failed. I said enter, then I copied it. I went left. Okay, that means E2 I went. You can see in the code here. Then I went going down. You can see you went down. That is what it is saying. You went to right side. Here is a problem. You went to right side. That means you selected F9. This is a F9. You went up and you pasted it and you stop the macro. Okay, you pasted the macro. So now I am close this window for now. And whenever I try to increase even a one row in my data, this code will fail. This code will fail. Let me see if it works. Dynamic 2, dynamic 3, sorry. Once you run this, it will always work for, this is not required. You increased and decreased cells. It's okay. This is dynamic 3. You, wherever you're selecting, it's trying to record everything. So I'm running dynamic 3 here. It's working, but the thing is, like, you deleted some column, you are adding something, it's really confused. So your recording, it was not really perfect. So that's why, guys, whenever you're recording, your steps should be very, very clear, what you're recording, what to be recorded, what not to be recorded. However, I totally failed in this practical example of recording, because it's not recording dynamically. It is not putting the formula dynamically. So let's see how to make things dynamic by using relative recording, or you can also call it as use relative reference. Okay, it's a recording macro, which is absolute. Using relative reference is making things dynamic. How to make things dynamic? Very interesting. Just take a look at this. I'll go for the next sheet, probably. I'll go for the next sheet. I'll try to reduce some lines, and later on we can increase the rows here. All right. So how to use relative reference when you want to make your coding dynamic. Okay. As of now, I'm still recording. As you have seen in the previous example, it was working fantastic, but the limitation was it is not dynamic in nature. If you want to make dynamic, you need to use a replace relative reference, relative reference, nothing but relative dynamic recording. That is what you have seen, the absolute recording. This is relative recording. So for that, I'm just typing as sales here. Okay, I'm just saying enter. Here what I'm doing, I'm not doing any magic, I'm recording the same thing again. So before that, I need to start what? Say recording. I want to say dynamic 5 maybe. I said okay here. Then I selected G2. Always in G2, I want to write something. That is what you're telling to the macro. The once you say enter, you got into the second cell. Here you are saying 95 into 199. Once I say okay, I got the formula here. Okay, this time when you go left, it's not a problem. When you go left, it's not a problem, because that is your second row. When you go down, you should be fixed it. You should not be fixed it. If I say down, what happens? It will always fix that particular reference. That is, whatever the last row is there, that is F20. If I come down, it will fix that reference. Should be very careful when you're fixing the reference. So what happens is here, we need to use relative reference. When you click on this relative reference, that means when you're sitting here, okay, when you're sitting here, I'm clicking on relative reference on. You can see the color will change now. It is in selection mode. Now you just use left. That means it will not record the absolute recording now. That means it is not identifying with the cell reference. Now you are coming down, okay, and you are going left, and you are stopping this relative reference, and you are going up and pasting the data, and you are stopping the recording. resume recording. Then I'm just clicking on Alt F8. I'm going to dynamic, what is the record name here? Dynamic 5. Yeah, it's dynamic 5. I'm clicking on this and running the code. It's working fantastic. But is it what we are looking for? No. Let me decrease the rows and it should work still. That is what our aim is. So once I say Alt F8 and when I say dynamic 5 and say run, it should work exactly the number of rows what we have. It seems it's working. Let me record, add some more rows here. This time it should be more rows because I want this code should work whatever the number of rows I have, irrespective of the size of your data. Irrespective of your size of data, it should work. Now my rows are increasing here, doesn't matter, but my macro should work because earlier it was static, but this time it should be dynamic. I have 127 records, guys, now. That means there is a tremendous change in my data. In the month of January, I got only 5 rows. In the month of February, I got 20 rows. And now I'm sitting in November month, I got some 100 rows now. So that means my macro should work effectively irrespective of your size of data. That means Alt F8, let me click on dynamic C5. Then if I run it, it should work. Is it working? Let me go to the last one, see if it really put the formula in all the cells. Yes, fantastic. That means it's working without any issue here. Resume recording, all right. So the very first one, we have seen how to run the macros. That is, let me, 6 ways of running. The first one is using shortcut. Okay, using shortcut. Okay, for the first example, I'm so I thought conscious I need to give a shortcut I given. But what if I forget giving a shortcut key in order to create a pivot table? Let's see. Alt F8. I went to Alt F8, and I am sure what is my macro name. I went to pivot to. I went to pivot to. Then at this moment, is there any possibility of changing the shortcut or given new shortcut name there? Okay, so let's see if I go to edit. I've given for the first macro, if I remember, let me go to the first macro. This is my first macro. I can click on edit. Once I say edit, it will come to your edit portion of your macro, which is written in the window. Close it, Alt F8. If I click on the first button, it will run the macro. Step intro, let's not get into that. I'll explain more about that later. Edit is always try to take you to that code only because I've written so many macros here. I'm not sure how to search for it. If I want to go for 8th macro, I want to edit it. I can click on 8th macro and just click on edit. It will directly take you to the 8th macro. That's the beauty of going to the view macros. Now, very important thing which I'm trying to understand here, for the first macro which I created, I was so conscious that I should give the shortcut key I've given. So let me see if I click on options, I can see what I've written there. So that means I'm removing, yes, that means I'm removing the shortcut key, for example. So that means there's no shortcut key to run that macro anymore. But for now, for pivot 2, I want to create a shortcut key, which I forgot when I'm trying to record this macro. So let me click on options. Here you can see there is no shortcut key to create the pivot table. So let me use Control S. Okay, Control Shift S, which is nobody has reserved. So I'm taking the chance of using this shortcut key. Control OK, and that's it. Now what I say is Control Shift S. When I use this, I'll see the macro is getting created. So this is running through your shortcut key. Okay. It is the easiest way of running your macros, but please do understand in the real time, we'll never try to use, ask end user to run the macros through the shortcuts. That is not a proper way of running. Uh, but let's try to see what are the options available. The first one, I'll try to tell you what works in the real time. This is the first way of running. Second way is going to the view macros, right? And running them. Okay, let me see what is those option. I'll go to the view macros and click on this, click on run. That we already know, right? There's a second option which I keep using, view macros and run them through the name, with the help of the name what you're running. Let's see the third one. From here, something which you are learning new, because these two I keep using. Shortcut key running by going to the views and running, selecting your favorite macro to run it. The third way is either you need to have a button where the user can easily click on the button to run your macro. That is the best option always, because you cannot expect the user using always shortcut, because you created the shortcut, but you need to give the instructions to the end user, always saying that please use this shortcut Alt Shift S. You need to give such instruction. Instead of that, why can't we have a button there where whenever he is clicking on the button, it should automatically create the things for you. So let's see how to create the third one, that is creating button or shapes. Okay, there are two options here. Let's see which one is looks good. Here, what I want to do is now I'm little not so comfortable in running with shortcuts, because though there is an option, so we are trying to explore. But otherwise, in real time, what I want to do is if I go to this block in the developer tab, this block we are going to talk much in later cases. But when you click on this, there is a button available, which looks little boring. So I don't want to go here. What is interested I'm interested in is when you go to insert, there is something called shapes. Pick up any shape here, pick up any shape, whatever the shape. But as we are talking about the buttons, let me create a button here. Okay, this is a beautiful button which I've created. The advantage of buttons are like you can create the way you want. Okay, shapes, I mean, for example, you want to modify to a black color, you made it. You want to change the style of that button, you can make it, okay, the way you want, and right click on it, make the edit text as you say run pivot. Okay, this is simply I'm creating a button for my end user so that he can run and create the pivot himself. Okay, I created the button, but still the button doesn't know what to do. So if you click on this button, it's not showing anything actually. Whenever I place my mouse pointer on this, it should change its style, but it's not changing because this button still doesn't know what to do. You have not given any instructions. But do you remember what is the macro you want to run? Yes, I know. That is, I want to run the pivot 2. Okay, if you are if you know which macro to be run when you click on this button, then you are good to go. That means this button you want to make a macro button. So that means right click on this. Okay, I repeat, right click on this, and there is an option called assign macro. That's a very simple, pretty straightforward. It's asking you to assign macro. Okay, again, I got to the same kind of a dialog box, which when I click on that view macros, I got the same kind of dialog box. Here it is asking you, okay, boss, you have several macros here. Can you tell me which macro you want to run when I click on this button? Okay, I'm going to this pivot 2 here, and I'm saying, okay. Now, see the behavior of this button now. When I'm placing my mouse pointer, it looks different. When I'm placing my mouse pointer on this, it's changing to a hand shape. That means whenever I run this, that means it's now clickable. That means when you run it, it will do the job for you. That's it. Okay, let me remove this. Is it working? I remove this. Now run it. Yes, running. Let me remove this. It's running. So that means I'm not using that traditional ones like shortcut are going to the view macros or running them. These first two are really looks good when you're learning initially, but when you're really doing a final project, when you're handing to your client, it's not really advisable to use the first two options because the third one is more specific. Okay, it looks very professional way of delivering the project by clicking on the buttons. That means I created one more copy here. Okay, you can create as many as buttons you want, and each button can run only one macro at this moment, guys. There are other ways which you cannot talk now, but each button will run the only one macro. Second button is maybe you want to use it for clearing something. Third macro you want to use it for formatting things. Let's say this button I want to put it a different color. You can do whatever you want because now you're have the shapes can have any color here. That's the advantage of using shapes here. We already been using, the only thing is we need to know how to use for a macro. This run pivot is running. This I want to use it for format the data. For example, this you are changing the text here, format data. That is for this macro is running for formatting data. This running for clearing the data. Let's assume this is running for clear data. Okay, so I have a different macros here. The only thing is I should know how to assign them to run for your requirement. So these buttons can be aligned the way you want, drag and drop. You can do the general way what you do with the buttons or shapes on your normal Excel. Okay, the same thing you can do here. So this is basically assigning a macro to your button. I repeat, how to assign. You need to have a clear concept in your mind. When I run this button, what I want to do. That means when I right click, you can assign the macro, whatever the macro you want to assign. I want to run this 8th macro, for example. If I click on this, and the macro will be assigned to this macro. So that's how you are using buttons to create that particular, to create the macro. So this is using the buttons, creating a buttons. The other way is using fourth option, that is creating buttons. Okay, let's see how to create a buttons. Is there any difference? More or less I like shapes, not the buttons. The thing is, it looks very uh, plain stuff of the, we cannot do much changes here. There is something called, when you click on developer tab, when you click on button, there is a button shaped here. When I try to place here, the moment I am going to place, it is going to ask me, what do you want to do with this? The moment I am going to place, I am not even placed it actually. It's not even showing the button. It's immediately asking, what do you want to do with this? Okay, let me see. I want to run the macro called pivot to. That's it, say okay. Now your button is ready with running the macro. So let me see if it works. Okay, with this it's working, with this it's working, it's working. Okay, so it's doing the same job. The only thing is how you want to run, either using a shape, either using a button. When I say shape is always in the only button. Let me see, do I have any types of other shapes available here? Let me take something called anything smiley for that matter. Okay, I've taken smiley here. I went to something called insert again. I went to shapes here. Let me pick up some unique shape here for that matter. We have something called heart shape here. Let me put it the heart shape here. Okay. So now this heart shape, I want to be behave like a macro. All right. So what's wrong? You can do that. So you go to down, you go to pivot and run it. Now that means this heart becomes a pivot. That means when you click on this, it will create a macro for you. That's it. That means don't use in real time smileys and heart shapes, because we are working in a professional environment. Try to use a proper shapes like a button, which you can direct to the end user, saying that by clicking on this button, you can run the macro. So that means I just want to prove the fact you can put anything for that matter, any kind of a shape, any kind of a button in order to run your macros. So that is a fourth way of running your macros, what you have seen. Let's see what is the fifth way. Okay, fifth way of running the macro, you might have seen like using the shortcut. That is the first one. Second one is you viewing the macros and running them, creating shapes to run, creating buttons to run. And what is the fifth way? May or may not be what do you call a favorite, but also works. That is, I have a pivot to as to run the macro. We all guys know what is a quick access toolbar here. We always we know what is a quick access toolbar. So if you want to access anything very quickly, we'll try to assign some information there, right? So if you want to assign some macro to here as a button, you can also do that. Once you click on this, okay, once you click on this, it's asking you what you want to add. That means what kind of elements you want to add this. Once you say more commands, it is telling you go to quick access toolbar, you want to add something. So let me see here if my macros are available, which I just created. So just clicking on macros to see my macros which I've created existing. Oh, fantastic, it's existing. Once I click on pivot to and I say add, it is added into my quick access toolbar. Once I add it to the once I add it to the pivot to, then I can also modify in the sense you can add some kind of images so that you can easily identify them, maybe just like that. I said pivot to should be always available in my quick access toolbar. Once I say okay, now you can see the smiley is available. It's not showing its colors, but it's available. Once you run it, that means you want to run the macro through the help of your quick access toolbar.